Hello and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. My name's Jo.
And my name is Andy.
And this is the place where we talk about marriage.
Yes.
And how much it matters to us.
Yes. Because marriage matters.
Absolutely.
Jo started, so you don't get my jokes. Sorry.
So what are we covering on this episode, Andy?
We're actually looking at the chapter of Hosea number 3. And I've forgotten hang on. Love hurts.
That's it.
Well rehearsed. Love hurts.
And so if you want to keep in touch with all that we're doing, especially Marriage Matters, then you can like us on Facebook. If I get this wrong, you can correct me, can't you, Andy? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're also on Twitter and Tumblr. And obviously do sign up to Berry Bites for our weekly newsletter, and then you really won't miss out. It's BerryBunchFamilyFive.
We've only been doing this for 2 years. www. Three of them.
Yep.
BerryBunch.family.
Family. Fantastic. Really simple, really straightforward.
It's so simple, we can't remember it.
So, episode 3, Marriage Matters,
yes.
And it's Love Hurts.
Love hurts. You can sing the song if you know the song. I'm not going to. That's not my thing. Yeah, we're looking at love hurts. We're looking at divorce. We're looking at affairs. We're looking about infidelity. We're talking about pornography. We're looking at when is a marriage over? When do you fight for a marriage? And what does God say about all of that? So a nice, simple, easy topic. A little bit of domestic violence thrown in as a subject. Just saying. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's some really tough subjects you've just listed there.
Yes.
But they are in the Bible, aren't they? I mean, and Hosea 3 really shows us something of a difficult relationship.
I'm not going to read it all out.
No.
Again. Hosea 3 is in the part of a slightly longer narrative. Hosea 3 is actually quite short, but let me give you a title. Hosea's wife is redeemed. And I'll just read a few little snippets just to give you a taster of what inspired me for this one. Then the Lord said to me, go and love your wife again, even though she commits adultery with another lover.
Whoa.
Now, you might take this as prophetic. You might say this is literal. This is about Israel, actually. It doesn't really matter which way you take it. It's still pretty hard-hitting.
Yeah.
So I brought her back for 15 pieces of silver, and it carries on. You must live in my house for many days and stop this prostitution. Can you imagine having a chat with your spouse and saying, stop being a prostitute?
Wow.
I mean... You know,
yeah, it's a whole.
That's a little tiny snippet of Hosea 3. So that's what we wanted to look at today, and it was a bit of an inspiration that I had.
Yeah.
I saw a post. Oh, the name's gone. Intimacy in Marriage, maybe. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, a blogger. We'll link to them.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting post. There was one from Hot Hoeing Humorist and was talking about pornography and whatever. And one of the things that Jay Parker actually tackled was, please don't give advice from 155 words of a comment. Yes, get a divorce. Because you actually need some specialist help. And I think that's worthwhile saying. We're not big into caveats. We're saying, look, this is what the Bible says. This is what we should do as a marriage. Based on 25 years of marriage, we're not really one for caveats. You know, careful about this situation and careful about that situation. But we do want to tackle this head on. And we do want real talk and real life stuff. So that's what we're going to be sharing about. But there won't be any caveats because that's not really our thing. But it struck me that somebody was giving advice. Yes, that's pornography. That's infidelity. You must get a divorce. And I think Jay Parker was quite right to say, look, please don't give advice. You need to be a counsellor. You need more than 155 words of a conversation before you even have the right to even speak into that life. And preferably some letters after your name would be really helpful. Yeah,
and I was thinking what we were going to cover as well is really about how we do hurt each other, don't we? We know things about each other as you journey in your marriage with your spouse. You learn and know things about each other because you share and you become intimate, and that is the vulnerability we've been talking about. But of course, when you get into a bad place, you can start chucking things at each other and hurting each other. And so love is a good thing, but love can hurt when we get into these arguments. And so that we'll also be talking about forgiveness and all those kinds of things.
Chuck away society, all that kind of stuff.
So lots to talk about.
Yes. Should we take a little break?
Yes.
Do you want to know what Marriage Matters is all about?
Go on.
So, Jo.
Yes.
Marriage Matters. What is it?
It is all about marriage because it matters.
You're nicking my lines now. Matters of the marriage because marriage matters and marriage matters of the marriage matter.
Yeah, because we've been married 25 years and we think it's really important to encourage one another and build one another up and help each other because we can learn from each other as well.
We've made so many mistakes where I've had to learn what Joe's done wrong and fix it. Like a mobile phone under a car wheel, a mobile phone at the bottom of the stairs, mobile phone left outside overnight, and I get a blame. So I've learned how to deal with these little issues.
Yeah.
Bowl of rice. Well, not if she's driven over it twice.
The bowl of rice won't help.
Some things are beyond help, but not Joe. And not your marriage. It's never beyond help.
No, absolutely not.
The Marriage Matters is all about matters of the marriage that matters because marriage matters. Saturday podcast from 4. And welcome back. There's even more of us. You can't escape us. We're even in the advert breaks. When we talk about what is it I'm supposed to be saying?
Yes.
You know, normally Jo does this bit. Because she loves me and I had the idea, she said I should start. So really sorry. So yeah, we're looking at Hosea 3. We're not really looking at Hosea 3. That was just an inspiration for me because it got me thinking about going through life. Stuff's going to happen and we're going to hurt each other. And actually, the more intimate we are as a couple, not just sexually, but, you know, in every kind of aspect of our life, whether it's your bank account or the car you drive or your car insurance or whatever, all these things start to create a vulnerability. And the more vulnerable you are, the better the relationship gets. But the better the relationship gets and the more vulnerable you become, the greater the propensity for possibly hurting each other. And that's kind of a double-edged sword. But that's really what we're talking about at one level is, as you get deeper in a relationship together, actually, you can hurt each other more. How easy is it to say, well, last time we had this and you did that, and we start throwing the past back in each other's faces. And we looked at, was it 1 Corinthians about love?
Love is patient, love is kind.
Love is patient, love is kind. It's about covering over the faults of the other person. It's not about hiding sin. That's a different thing. But it is covering over the faults. For example, leaving the toilet seat up. You know, we teach our boys to put the toilet seat down. Well, if I don't put the toilet seat down one time, does Jo go, what are you doing? You need to put the seat down. Or does she think, well, he maybe had a good reason. And actually, if the toilet seat's ever up, you come to me and say, is it up for a reason? And it's normally, yeah, I was in the middle of cleaning, so I left the seat up so you wouldn't use it. Yeah. And it depends how you want to look at it. There's different perspectives.
So I was just getting into what you were saying.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, so love hurts. Lots of things can go wrong in a relationship. Lots of things that we can say to each other in the heat of the moment. Yeah. And you know, this society, we sort of live in a society on Facebook a lot or social media where we get offended very easily, you know, and you hear about it and you think... And, you know, sometimes I think maybe that might be creeping into our marriages, that we get offended. I'm sure there's something in Scripture that we shouldn't be offended so easily. And as Christians...
not be quick to anger.
Yeah, and so, you know, we need to go to God and think about the relationship that we have with God. Our relationship with God in our marriage is important, the relationship we have together, prayer and everything. But, yeah, taking everything to God in prayer. And, yeah, because if we get too offended too quickly... the relationship's not going to last or be strong enough to get through the tough times. And sometimes...
the tough times will come.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we need to vent, don't we? We need to sometimes we just need to know the other person's just letting off a bit of steam or needs to get something off their chest and they don't really mean it. If we come back at them with, you just said that, and it just gets worse, doesn't it? And so, yeah, it's to thinking about how we might respond to each other. And love is key, absolutely.
Love is really key. So we wanted to touch a little bit. So here's a real life situation that happened. This is when we were courting, so pre-married, and back in the days of mobile phones were kind of brand new, and you didn't have them. So we used phone boxes back in the day. And I was on a phone call with Jo,
or phone booth in America.
Phone booth, yeah. And it was late. We were on a phone call. I was tired. And I had a bit of money left for the phone box, and I actually lied to Jo because I just wanted to go home and go to bed. And it wasn't a brilliant conversation. I don't even know what we argued about. Not a clue. It wasn't, you know, great. So I said, well, that's it. I've got to go. I'm out of money. And when the phone ran out, I went home. And I felt dreadful because it put this huge wedge between us. Now, we weren't married at that point. However, it put a massive wedge in between us just in terms of our normal relationship. when you do that kind of thing within the context of a marriage, it's much, much deeper. It's much more painful. So I wanted to touch a little bit on pornography. I do not struggle with it. It's not something I have a personal problem with. I remember going to a men's weekend, and there was me and another lad, and really good Christian guy, and we were saying, we're getting really bored of being told how we really struggle with pornography, because every man does. And do you know what? We got lots of things we struggle with, and this is not one for us, actually. And don't assume that only men can struggle with pornography. We've talked about this before. The unveiled wife and her husband had a real issue with pornography. She had lots of pain when they're first having intimacy together physically, sexually. And because of the pain, it led to problems in the marriage, because they'd waited for one another, and they're both from Christian backgrounds, and pain, and then pornography came in, and actually is something that she struggled with as well. And so don't ever think it's a male issue. It's not. Pornography, I would ramp into that. Anything from sex scenes on films, that I would class that as pornography, quite frankly. Romance novels that paint graphic pictures. It hasn't got to be moving images. It can be painting the words. We've got very good creative minds. There's all sorts of things that I think we can lump in with pornography, from magazines and books to films to all sorts of things. And it is an issue. It is serious. If God says that what we do in our heart, it's as if there was a thing in the New Testament, wasn't there, when he said, well, if you're murdering someone in your heart, then God sees that as just as bad. Now, we struggle with that as humans because, well, they didn't actually murder anybody, therefore it's not as bad. Well, it's pornography, therefore it's not actual physical sex with someone, therefore it's not as bad, but actually in God's eyes it is. There is no distinction. And the reason why I lump lots of films in with that as well is if something is sexually stimulating me that is not my wife, I don't want it. And I don't want it. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've not said I've never strayed or struggled with this stuff. But I find it boring and stupid. And it doesn't interest me. It never has. And yet, if I did, that's still adultery in the eyes of God, as far as I'm concerned. Now, you can disagree with that. We're happy for you to disagree. But if murdering in your heart to God is just as bad as murdering someone in the flesh, pornography where you're imagining having sex with somebody in your mind is going to be just as bad as having sex with someone in the flesh.
Yeah, I mean, Hosea 3 talks about how God has called Hosea to get his wife back, having gone off and been promiscuous, adulterous, being unfaithful. And we know that that's one of the things that you can have divorce for, isn't it? It's unfaithfulness. And I suppose actually pornography could be a form of unfaithfulness, can't it? And it's very hard to have a relationship with that in the relationship. Yeah. So it's not an easy sort of thing to have to deal with. No.
And you need proper skilled counselling and help. I think we have to be really careful here. If somebody's having an issue with pornography, then hang on, I'm going off supermarket tomorrow. If someone is having an issue with pornography, then it's not that's the end of the marriage. Because here's the thing, the whole thing of Hosea 3 is God saying to Hosea about Israel, well, they've been a prostitute, they've been having sex with somebody else, they've broken the marital contract. The Bible talks frequently about us as brides of Christ in the relationship. So Israel has broken the contract with God, but what does God do? God then says, well, I'm still love them and I'm still going to forgive them. Now, this is where this is not a caveat. If you are in a situation in your marriage where your marriage contract has been broken, it's an area of expertise, this stuff that Jo's particularly excelled at for the last 25 years. She is genuinely an expert in the field of domestic violence prevention in all sorts of levels and ways. And so I'm being careful what I say, because you can correct me if I'm wrong, which is quite handy. But the thing about domestic violence is it's what someone does to another. Really, domestic violence is a fancy way of saying bullying. Now, bullying may be physical, it may be emotional, it might be financial. You might be surprised to find out that more women actually physically abuse men than the other way around. That's an interesting little one from the Office of National Statistics. That usually baffles people, but it's true from the government's own data. It doesn't have to be physical, it doesn't have to be financial, it can cover a whole multitude, but it's basically bullying. It's just bullying within a certain context, and it's very serious bullying. If you're in a situation where you are being physically abused, you need to get out. That's it. Can that marriage be redeemed? Absolutely. Should it be? Yes, if possible. Does it have to be? Not necessarily. You need to seek skilled counsellors. But if your wife is beating you up with in any kind of way, whether it's financial or physical, get the police involved. Don't stand there and say stuff. Now, I wanted to touch really quickly. There's been a big thing in America in particular about women who've gone to their pastors particularly and said, I'm in an abusive relationship. My husband has been beating me up. And the pastor says, go home and be a wife. Can I just say, please don't ever give that advice, because that is just so wrong and stupid. If somebody comes to you and says, I am being beaten up in my marriage, here's the bruises from what my husband's done, or here's the debt that my wife is forcing us to have, or whatever way around it is, call the police, protect that person, and care for them. That's it. That's what Jesus would do. That's what you must do. Having said all of that, we're trying to tread a careful line here, because divorce is never ever going to be good. That doesn't mean to say you shouldn't get divorced. Jesus was very clear on that as well. Yeah. Like I said, real talk tonight. But at the same time, if someone's beating you up, there's no marriage contract. Period. It's gone. So there is no marriage to save. Now, you can redeem that marriage. There are plenty of websites out there and marriage ministries that will help you if your husband's gone off and had an affair. They will help you to work through that. Because here's the thing, we wanted to touch on forgiveness. As a young lad, I was I've never said this publicly. What the heck? I was sexually abused as a boy, and I went to some pastors to say, look, this is what I've realised happened to me as a child. I went to 3 different ministers from 3 very different churches in desperation for help. And I had, well, forgive and reconcile. Go back and say sorry to the person, and go and make yourselves right. And I remember at the time thinking, would you say that to a woman who's been raped, gang raped? Oh, go back and put yourselves right. Forgiveness, absolutely important. Reconciliation, yeah, it can be right. But there's a phrase that went round: forgive and reconcile. It's not biblical. Can I just say, it's really, to forgive and be reconciled is not a biblical principle. Ever. To forgive, always. To reconcile, possibly. If you can, great. If it's healthy and appropriate, but it may not be. I'm saying a lot, aren't I?
No, I mean, forgiveness is really key, no matter what's going on in the relationship, whether you're talking about really serious issues that we've been talking about, or whether, you've had an argument and things have got out of hand. Forgiveness is key, because when you forgive, that's about you and not about the other person. Too often we think, right, I'm not going to forgive them, I'll show them, but you don't show them at all, because all you do is you cause harm to yourself. And we also, our relationship with God is important. If he's forgiven us and he's told us to forgive, then it's really important. And so forgiveness is really key, and no matter what. But it doesn't mean to say, like you say, you're going to reconcile. It doesn't mean to say you have to put up and shut up and everything. Forgiveness is very, very different to then what you might do. So you can forgive someone and still call the police. You can forgive someone and still say, no, that's enough. You need to leave. You can, like you say, God is an amazing God who can redeem and change lives incredibly. But
I think one of the fascinating things was a couple that I knew. The husband had an affair with someone who was in the house. There was a lot of calamity, which I'm not going to say because I'm not that would draw too much detail to who these people were. There was a lot of stuff that went on, and there was a miracle that came out of that. And the wife realised, and I heard her talking about this, she knew that, okay, her husband's had an affair. That's really bad. She knew she'd failed him, and that was what she talked about. She knew that she hadn't been a great wife. She knew that she pushed him into the arms of another woman. In no way does that ever make what he did okay, by the way. But she knew that it wasn't just about him, because they're in a marriage for a long time. And that actually, if he's having an affair, it's not that he's not having enough sex at home. That's a rubbish. I was going to say something stronger. Sex at home is never going to stop an affair. They don't think more sex, therefore no affair. That's cobblers. That's a nice clean word. But yeah, she realised that the affair, she was part of that because she'd pushed her husband away from her in many ways. And that actually kick-started a redemption for them as a marriage, and they came back together, and God did something really beautiful and special. Now, that doesn't mean to say that has to happen for you. It doesn't mean to say it's going to happen for you. But that's that was their story. That was their situation, and God did some amazing miracles. And this is the thing about forgiveness. I had to forgive the person that abused me as a child. It doesn't let them off the hook, but it lets me off the hook by forgiving them. And that's the same. Always forgive. Always. It can be hard. I was abused when I was a boy, and it was in my 30s when I finally realised it. It took me a long time, a good few years, to actually come to a place of forgiveness. It wasn't immediate. And this is the thing about infidelity. Is pornography the same as having sexual sin with somebody else physically? well, of course it isn't, and of course it is. You're not actually having actual physical relationship with someone else, but you're still being joined to somebody in a different way. So it absolutely is not, and it absolutely is. So you're going to have to seek some counselling and guidance and see where you're at as a marriage. But I think what struck me about this couple that did get back together, having had an affair on the part of the husband, was the wife realising that it wasn't just about him having an affair. It's actually a consequence of a bigger problem in the marriage. And she wanted to fight for her marriage. And if you want to fight for your marriage, God is going to bless you for that.
Yeah.
But that does not mean affair, carry on and get on with your life together as you always were because you're married. Okay, marriage is not until death us do part if the contract has been broken. But that doesn't mean to say, yes, I'm going to get a divorce. Isn't that wonderful? Because there's no such thing as a good divorce.
I think if you are unclear and you're confused, read the Bible. That's the instructions for life, for a marriage, for everything.
Get some decent
and
advice.
as couples, I mean, we're moving on to tips, but, let's read the Bible together as couples. That's really helpful.
I know this is a deep one. It's a tough one. I've shared some, but hey, it was fine. But forgiveness, I mean, when I lied to Jo before we were married, she needed to forgive me. We had some real issues. We talked about getting married and all the stuff around that.
We have done a bit.
We have done that one. Okay. Couldn't remember if we had. I didn't want to sort of drop stuff in. But yeah, so we had some real issues getting married, and Jo had to forgive me, something that wasn't even my fault. I wasn't at fault for the struggles that we had to get engaged the first time and trying to get married. That was just, more abusive stuff in my life. But, Jo had to still forgive me. And in that forgiveness, you found real love and a desire to help me. And in a sense became my knight in shining armour, or knightess. Knightess. So, forgiveness, always forgiveness. Forgive and reconcile. If I ever hear that from anybody, please, if you hear somebody saying, need to forgive and reconcile, can you just go and tell them to get in touch with me and I'll have a little chat with them? Because to forgive and reconcile is never, ever, ever a biblical principle or construct. Forgiveness, always. Reconciliation, possibly. Should we take a little break?
Yeah, let's do that.
So let's pray. Andy's going to come on and show us how to pray. Excellent. What have you got there?
It's my world's atlas,
Okay.
so I can pray for the world.
Okay.
You see, pray's good.
Right. Okay. You're going to show us how to do that then?
Yeah. So I've got my atlas, and if you go to the letter A, I'm going to start here. So
Yeah.
please God, please bless our Ben Ra and our Chun and our Borg.
What did you like about the story?
Bob
You like Bob?
and the stick. We like sticks.
You like the stick?
We like sticks a lot. I do.
Okay, well, we'll try and make sure there's some more stories with sticks in,
Thank
Dave,
you.
especially for you.
So here we are for tips and resources after a nice, lightweight, meaty section.
Actually, you've got a lot of books that touch on these subjects, actually, don't you? And lots of websites that we can link to.
Yeah, there's all sorts. If you've had infidelity in your marriage, there are loads of places. You can Google Christian resources for that, or go and speak to your local minister. People like Fierce Marriage, really good website. Hot, Holy and Humorous is another great one, and they've got resources. Unveiled Wife is another great website, and these all point you to different places. If you've got a real issue with pornography in your marriage, there are loads of really good, thankfully now, good websites. Don't think pornography is like a soft sin and it's okay. It's like saying there's a white lie or a soft sin. It's either good or it's bad. So, get some advice. I haven't really got much in the way of links immediately because I've never had to look.
No, I was just thinking about sort of tips and stuff, and you hear about marriages that go through a really tough time, don't they? Like, really tough things that just pull them apart, like maybe a loss of a child or something like that, and somehow the marriage doesn't seem to be able to hold together. But oftentimes, and I think if God's involved, actually those hard times can bring you together. So if you do suffer with infidelity or pornography or some really tough stuff in your marriage where you've really hurt each other so badly, or things have just gone on for a lot, sometimes it doesn't have to be such big subjects as this. It could just be saying one nasty word and they just sort of pile up, don't they? And it's rather than one big thing, it's lots of little things, isn't it?
Lots of peas.
But I'm just thinking, God is a healing God. And actually, if you allow God in, it can make you stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger or something.
Yes. I saw a thing the other day. It was a woman holding a fork up to her husband. Look at it as if through prison. It's like, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It made me chuckle anyway. I think another tip is, as Christians, we have to be saying, God forgives us for all the dirt stuff that all the bad, all the evil, all the sin. Jesus went to the cross just for you and just for me, just for Joe, and he redeems us. Now, your marriage may be beyond redemption in your eyes, may not be in God's. It may be that you need a divorce because it's not safe for you. Fine, get out of the house, get some safety, get the police involved. If your church is not going to support you, find one that will. And I think one of the tips is, or sort of tip and resource that kind of feeds into what we're talking about, is God loves marriage. God hates divorce. In Hosea 3, we see God reaching out through Hosea in this prophetic message to Israel that he's not given up on them. And I think in any situations that we're in, it's really important to remember that God hasn't given up on us, and we shouldn't be giving up on each other. It may be that you have to give up on the marriage. It may be that has to come to an end, and that's really tragic when that happens, but you know, it happens.
Yeah, I've met lots of different couples who have had to go their separate ways, and what really sort of makes me feel good, although I know they're separated and they'll never get back together again, how they speak highly of one another, perhaps almost even have a better relationship. And it isn't just, and not just for the children, but they like to speak highly of the other person, particularly when there's children involved. And I just think that's, you know, it's lovely, isn't it, that you can go your separate ways and have that healing and that sort of positivity. So, you know, God can help us wherever we're at on these journeys.
I think part of the tips and resources as well is get yourself some help.
Yeah.
If you're in an abusive relationship, if your wife is beating you up physically, go to your pastor, call the police, get it involved. If your pastor says, be reconciled, ignore them and find someone that will help you. You know, leave that church. That's not a godly church if that's going to happen. I'd also say some ministers really don't understand this stuff. They really haven't got a clue. They can be really quite naive sometimes. And I found 3 in a row, sadly, of really good, respected churches where I lived. And I knew these people, I knew the churches, and they were sadly quite useless. And what we've seen in America, I think it was the Southern Baptist Convention and stuff, is more, sadly, very naive ministers, or marriage is the only thing that's important. Well, marriage matters. You know, that's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
But you know what? God loves you more than your marriage. And I think that's worth saying.
Yeah,
as a little resolve.
Yeah.
So, endurance. Wait, no, first, I'm Stephen.
I'm Nathan.
And we're brothers, actually.
In case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fact.
I know the much more masculine physique on this side may have thrown you off.
Yeah, I'm actually older.
Yeah.
Taller. Stronger. Fitter.
Maybe.
Oh, definitely.
Anyway, that's not the point of endurance. The point
no,
is
it
spiritual training, not physical.
Yep.
Not that we don't compete that much.
Nor spiritually. You shouldn't compete spiritually either.
No. But I'm better than you.
Don't know what to say to that.
There is no answer.
So the point of endurance is all about
Take a mick out of each other.
all about 1 Timothy 4 verse 8, which says, physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better. And so it was an idea which, I think it was my idea actually, wasn't it?
It was a joint effort. There's no I in team.
Yes, it was definitely my idea.
Yeah.
And the idea being that we have to, well, I was challenged because basically I enjoy exercise. I was doing lots of weight training, lots of running, and I was getting a bit obsessed.
You were failing to train spiritually.
Yeah, you could say that I was idolizing physical fitness rather than...
we created endurance to help him learn better how to balance spiritual and physical training.
Yeah, basically. Okay.
Because I've already cracked it.
No.
No?
Got a long way to go yet. So go check us out.
I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, you're way behind.
So here we are for the takeaway.
Yes.
The takeaway. So what are we going to take away from today? Well, we've had some pretty honest conversations. We've shared some pretty strong words. Well, okay, I've said some pretty strong things. The church has, let's be honest about this, as someone who is in full-time ministry, I think I have a right to say this. The church has abjectly failed men and women who have been suffering domestic violence at home, who have been suffering physical violence. And to be a bit more specific, the church has failed too many times. And one of the things I'm really conscious of is the importance of standing in a gap. And I taught our boys to do this at school. If you see someone being bullied at school, stand in the middle. And if you get into a fight, I don't care what the school says. If you're defending somebody, that's what we should do as Christians. We should stand in the gap and not worry. It's not about being violent. It's about standing in the gap, actually. And I think marriages need people standing in the gap. And that's partly what our heart and passion is. So part of my takeaway is a reminder that this podcast is really important. This is about saying, look, this is our marriage. It ain't perfect, but 25 years in, we've learned a lot. We've come a long way. We've survived this long because God's in the centre. We've had some difficult times. The divorce word was thrown around really badly at one point by both of us, which was not helpful at all. And actually, my takeaway is a reminder that what we're doing is quite important, because God loves marriage. The devil hates marriage. We touched on the fact that the husband-wife model that God created in Genesis is the very strongest building brick for a society, for children in particular. There's lots of research behind that. I'm not going to bother going listen all that. There's loads of research for that. And that's God's plan. Unsurprisingly, it was a good one. And I'm reminded of the importance of what we're doing. So get behind a marriage. Pray for a marriage. Don't ever underestimate the power of prayer for your marriage. And don't ever underestimate the power of prayer for somebody else's. We had, I think it's about 3 weeks in the last 15 years when we've taken a week at a time to fast and pray for a marriage that we saw was in trouble. Now, that's not all about divorce. One couple, we prayed and fasted for 7 days because they couldn't have children. And we wanted to pray and fast. There was another couple that we prayed for. They were having some real struggles with illness with one of their child. So Joe and I prayed and fasted for a week. I like my food, and I'm not very good at fasting, but you know what? Marriage is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway for me then is just realising just how many things that can come up against a marriage, and so many challenges there are, and some really, really tough things that can go on, whether we're talking about domestic abuse, whether we're talking about pornography or unfaithfulness, adultery. These are really, really hard things to struggle subjects in life with. And, you know, there's no two ways about it. We need things like Marriage Matters. We need to fight for marriages, and we need to help each other. We can't do this on our own. And again, when you get married, you know, people stand up with you and say, right, we're going to come alongside these guys. And I think you're right. You need to seek help when you need it, because we can't do it on our own. I mean, it's just us together, isn't it? We're the guys who are responsible for whether this marriage works. It's a two-way thing, isn't it? But we do need others sometimes to help us through and to stay strong and get through some of the difficult times. And
definitely.
Yeah. So you need people, network of friends, family, people that you can go to, books and advice and things like that. But yeah, marriage is under attack, isn't it, by all kinds of things in this world. And I think we've highlighted just a few.
we've glanced over. As I say, Joe's an expert in the field of domestic violence. We are, I think, at 25 years, experts in a marriage that works. We're experts in our marriage. We're pretty good at that. So, okay, let's try and lighten things. So, when have you struggled with our marriage, and how did you decide to keep fighting? We haven't had any of these really massive issues, but how did you help? What kept you going?
When did I struggle? When did you struggle? Well, sometimes you can be really difficult, and you get so you sometimes, how do I word it? And I can get frustrated by that. I just feel like I'm not getting anywhere fast, you know, or you're not listening to me. So I suppose there are times that like that, isn't there? Where
I'm listening to you, I'm just choosing to ignore you.
And I don't like not being listened to. How do I get through that? I've learned, I suppose, to just chill out about it, really, because part of it is it's always like, you know, again, it's coming back to not being offended, isn't it? It's a bit like, really, does it matter that much? And trying to stand back a bit and go, well, why are they not listening? Are you busy? Or have I taken something the wrong way, or just let it go.
Sometimes we can take things so badly. Why didn't you ring me? I've been texting you all day. I never had a response. What's the problem? Are you in a... My phone battery was flat.
Yes.
I didn't know your number.
Yeah. We
can take a fine for sneezing.
Yeah.
Is that a phrase we can use? I've used it now.
And I just go... What I do is I go alone. If I feel frustrated, I think, okay, I just need to... And I go and shut the door and spend some time with God, and then just chill out and let it wash over me, or maybe some really heavy music.
Well, that works. Yeah, we hear that.
A bit of moshing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think likewise, when I'm struggling with you for whatever reason, I think there's a ministry from the States, Dr. Neil T. Anderson, and he has Freedom in Christ Ministries, which is great. Go and look that out. If you want a resource that will change your world, then go and look at that. He just takes all bits of the Bible and sticks it in a lovely little condensed way. It's wonderful. Anyway, he talks about this, about listening to the pain. And he painted this brilliant picture about, he came home one day he was a minister in a church. He came home exhausted. He had so many intense situations and so many emotional problems to have to try and deal with for people during the day. He came home and everyone was kind of shouting and screaming, and he just wanted 10 minutes, peace and quiet. His wife, unbeknownst to him, had been at home with 3 screaming kids and was having a really intense day. And when he came through the door, it wasn't a very good greeting between the two of them, because they both wanted time. And he put some of his own work into practice. And the thing is, we need to understand the pain. Yeah. And if we understand why they're responding like this, what's hurting them, where are they struggling, all of a sudden it's not about they've done this to me, but how can I help them? How can I encourage my wife? She's having a bad day. She's just snapped at me for no reason whatsoever. What's the matter? Okay, her water glass is a bit empty. It's a bit hot in here. She looks like she's a bit intense on something, so she's probably stressed about something. So I'll go make her a cup of tea and look for the pain. Try not to hear the words so much. Look for the pain. That's my takeaway.
Good advice, that.
I've got good at that. So we'll be back for more marriage matters next week. This is a slightly longer episode. We've touched on some rather delicate issues, but hey ho, this is Marriage Matters, where we discuss issues that are real life and real talk. So we hope you've enjoyed that. Get in touch if you've got any questions or thoughts or comments. If you disagree, you're welcome to let us know. We may disagree back. That's okay. We're not going to cancel you. We're not into that. So yes, thanks for joining us, and we will be back again for more next week.
Yeah, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Ways to keep in touch with the Berry Bunch. Visit our website and sign up to the Berry Bites newsletter so that you can be notified of all our videos, posts, exciting news and seasonal events.
Subscribe to our Vimeo and YouTube channels, where we post brand new homegrown video resources every week.
Join us on Ding Dash, a fabulous place that connects people from all around the world. It's social media as it should be. Come join the rebellion.
Like us on Facebook, where we hang out and post extra things to encourage and inspire you. We're on Twitter and Tumblr too. You can also follow us on Instagram, where we share extra photos from the world of the Berry Bunch.
If you've enjoyed any of our posts or videos, share it with a friend and encourage them too. And if you want to encourage us, then like, comment and share on what we make. To help support the ministry we freely provide, check us out on Patreon, where you can support us financially as you feel led.